delighted to announce Laurel Farr, the CEO at Distribute Consulting. Her session is entitled Remote to the Rescue, How Virtual Jobs Are Saving the World. This presentation covers the 5 socioeconomic benefits of virtual jobs, plus the change management process we need to globally initiate to make remote work equally accessible and permanently sustainable. Laurel, thanks so much for sharing your genius with us. Take it away.
Hi, my name is Laurel Farr. I am the CEO of Distribute Consulting, which is the world's foremost consulting firm specializing exclusively in remote work. I'm also a Forbes contributor and the founder of the Remote Work Association. And as you can probably guess, I'm going to be talking about remote work today. What else? But I want to be talking about remote work in a way that you probably haven't heard in the past few months, which is going to be hard to do. We have all been talking about remote work in so many ways. So I really want to broaden our minds today and talk about it in a new way, which is how virtual jobs are saving the world. What does this mean for our future? So let's go ahead and jump into it. So there's all been so many questions about remote work, right? Like everybody has been buzzing, especially in March and April and May of this year. Everybody was asking so many questions about working from home. Do I need an office pet? And are my team members actually working, or are they just watching Netflix? And oh my word, my dog is barking. What do I do? And is it Skype or Zoom or Microsoft Teams? Like, what's the best tool? There were so many questions. People were just frantic about how to optimize remote work, which was completely justified because this was critical to our international economic resiliency. It was critical to business operations. So absolutely, these questions were justified. However, I think if everybody had the headspace to think about just one question, none of these other questions would even matter. These wouldn't even be on our radar if we understood the true impact of remote work. Because the impact of remote work is not about, which video call software is best, or how to, should we have a desk or a small workspace shelf, or should we work in the dining room or the bedroom? None of those matter. What matters is how much this is going to change our future, change the future of our businesses, change the future of you and your family. So there's really only one question that we should be asking, and that is, how will remote work change my life? Because it will. Hands down, no questions asked, it will change your life. And guess what? It already is in ways that you may not even be aware of. So that's what we'll be discussing during this presentation today is, yes, me and my team at Distribute Consulting, we specialize in change management and optimization of remote work. And you're going to have plenty of opportunities to think about that and to talk about that with you, your employer, with your teammates about how to make this work better in your company. And there's going to be great content on specifically that throughout this conference. We're also going to have opportunities to talk about, what the future of remote work industry is and how to network with other professionals. That's also going to be covered. But my specialty is bigger picture than that. I want you to open your mind and realize that we are in a watershed moment that has nothing to do with going back to the office. It's a watershed moment for the socioeconomics of our world, because this right here is my personal mission. Even though I specialize in corporate operations, this is what drives me forward in my career and in our industry every single day, is that remote work has the power to change the lives of individuals, of businesses, and of communities. It's not just about business operations. It's not just about you not having to commute every day. It's about changing the world, literally. So let's think about the impact. Let's think about the scale for just a second. This is not just a convenience that a few people have access to. We are changing the world at scale. So here's some statistics just to help you wrap your mind around what level of scale we're talking about. As of right now, as of this week, now these numbers are changing every single month. So this is not an evergreen slide, I'll warn you right now. But as of right now, 37% of all of the jobs in the United States could work from home full time. 37%. Now, what could, 37% is already a massive number, but can we expand that number? Yes, 83% of all jobs in the United States could be remote friendly, meaning they could be mobile, they could be location independent, at least part-time. 83%. That is 4 in 5 people. That is an astronomically massive shift in how people think about their daily lives. Here's a very basic example. About 20% of Americans have a disability of some kind, a physical disability that has to do with mobility, such as they need a wheelchair. So 20%, that's a pretty significant number. And it was so significant that in the 70s, they passed the ADA, or the Accessibility Act. And that was when the United States said, hey, look, we are ignoring 1/5 of our population, and we need to enable equal mobility and access into buildings. And so they passed the ADA Act, and that is when we all needed to have wheelchair ramps in order to access a building. Now, that was 20% of our population. 20%. Now we're talking about over 80% of the population. So if you think that over 80% of the population is not going to impact the way that laws are passed, the way that that cities are constructed, the way that jobs are created, all of that will be changed because such a large percentage of us have now shifted or can shift in the way that we are working and where we are working. So let's zoom into that a little bit more and talk about how it's going to change. These are 5 benefits, socioeconomic benefits of remote work that have nothing to do with sweatpants, nothing to do with beaches, nothing to do with alarm clocks, because that's what everybody always thinks of. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Those are fantastic. Let me be the first to raise my hand and say, I love working in sweatpants. Oh my word, I love working in sweatpants. I don't know if I could ever go back to a 9 to 5 full-time in which I can't wear sweats on a regular basis. However, is that why I advocate for remote work? Is that why I think it's going to change the world? No. So I do think that deserves a little bit of gratitude, but not a lot of attention. So let's focus on what does deserve attention and how this is going to change all of our lives together, but more specifically, your life. First is business operations. Now, this should be the most familiar and the most realistic and applicable to your life, because this is what we've all just experienced for the past 5 months. Is business continuity was enabled during a global pandemic thanks to work from home models. Because we had these contingency plans in place, business was able to continue amid an international crisis. Now, that is nothing to sniff at. However, on a larger scale, what this means is that business in itself is mobile when the workers are mobile. So this means that we can take virtual jobs to wherever we need them to be. Traditionally, economies were built on geographic resources. So if you had a great river, you would build a factory next to the river so that you could have a water wheel, and that would produce the energy in order to fuel the equipment. And if you had a lot of wood in a forested area, then that would become your main export. Historically, industry is based on geographic resources. However, now that's different. People don't need to move to a specific location in order to access sustainable employment. We can take the employment to wherever they are. And how that changes the way that we think about industry in general is it changes how businesses and how cities are constructed. It completely reverses the traditional cycle. And business is just more nimble, it's more agile, it's more innovative. Businesses are able to recruit a different population. The industries in an area are able to diversify, which means you can prevent ghost towns from occurring, because you can have multiple industries in a certain city. So if one dies, you can lean on another. And then obviously, as we've all experienced firsthand, this can be critical in emergency preparedness. That think of how often, if there's a tornado or an earthquake or a flood, that all of the businesses in the area are completely shut down for months at a time until the business office can reopen. That's no longer a concern. So when we have this mobility, not just in our jobs, but we have mobility, we have flexibility, we have leaning on the cloud for business in general, what it means is that business is actually stronger. Not just our business, but all business in an entire economy. And what that means is that the business is stronger for the entire local community. It's stronger through economic recessions, which we are experiencing right now. And it's stronger in future innovation, so that, like we said, if we're more nimble, we're more mobile, we're more adaptable. That means we're not just adaptable physically, but also strategically as the industry continues to grow. So let that open your mind a little bit, and let's go on to the next one, which is diversity and inclusion. Now, remember how I said, I mentioned in the last slide that we can recruit a larger talent pool, and that is absolutely part of what we're discussing here, is that we in distributed companies have access to a global talent pool. We can recruit not just who in the area is best for the job, but who is best for the job, period, regardless of their location. It completely opens up the potential of really unlocking the strength of our workforce. Now, that's great for our business, but think about it on the other side. What that means is that you don't need to be living in high-cost areas like Silicon Valley and New York City and London and Tokyo in order to have access to the highest-paying jobs. It means that you can be located anywhere, have a great skill set, and qualify for the top job in your industry. And that's going to happen no matter who you are, no matter if you are, a very stereotypical, 30-year-old white male in Silicon Valley, or if you're a single mom living in the slums of Detroit. All of us are capable of great things, and we can have access to the same jobs in the virtual business world. So this creates an opportunity for the businesses to measure work equally, and therefore reduce discrimination and bias in recruiting, in promotions, in all of those elements of operations that traditionally create discriminatory practices. So we're on the business end, we're opening up this possibility to finding the best talent. But on the other end, on the workforce side, it means that the best talent has access to the best jobs, no matter who you are, no matter where you are. And that is absolutely extraordinary. We've been working for decades on reducing discrimination in the workplace and strengthening equity and inclusion. And it's such a hot topic, especially right now in 2020. And all of us are always wondering, how do we get better? How do we get better? How can we get better? And guess what? Remote work is not the solution, but it's a solution. Remote work and results-based tracking is shattering ceilings in almost every single company. In fact, we see a 40% higher minority leadership rate in distributed companies than we do in traditional office companies because of equal opportunity. And I mean, here we are, right? That's the slide. Equal work earns equal opportunity, period. No matter who you are, no matter where you are. And that's something worth fighting for, in my opinion. All right, next is the talent pool. I know this sounds redundant, but trust me, we're going to take it in a different direction. So when we have this worker accessibility, we've got this global talent pool, and we have this diversity and equity and inclusion in the workforce. That's a great start. But let's circle back to the beginning when we were talking about economic development, and let's put those two pieces together. When we have job accessibility of anybody, of any race, of any location, of any gender, all of those discriminatory practices are eliminated. What does that do for the concept and the topic of employment in general? it completely changes it, because there are so many discriminatory practices in an office, like the gender, the parental status, the sexual orientation, the race, everything that we talk about and traditionally think of with diversity and inclusion. However, there's a lot of other discriminatory factors that are preventing people from getting employment that have nothing to do with qualification. Maybe somebody has a back injury and they're not able to commute to work, or maybe they have an environmental allergy that makes it really difficult for them to work in a highly populated or densely populated office. There's so many factors that prevent people from employment and force them into a situation in which they're forced into unemployment or collecting welfare checks, in which they are actually completely qualified to work. So when we reduce that and prevent that from happening, and we take jobs to them wherever they are in that safe zone for them to live in and to work from, then we have incredible impact on unemployment rates and on population retention. Again, think of those Rust Belt and ghost town cities that everyone had to flee the entire city in order to find employment. That's no longer a thing. So economies can retain people and they can work right from where they're at. And they can also be saving more money in their household. So not only are they employed and more financially secure that way, but they can be accessing the national average of salary in wherever they are. So you can be living in an incredibly low cost area and earning a national average or higher than average salary, and be that much safer and that much more secure as a household, which is really important. If any of us have lived through those moments of, living hand to mouth and not having enough money in the bank, that is an important concept by itself. But especially right now when we're discussing economic resiliency and economic health, this is even more important. There's so many people that are out of work and fearful about the future, and remote work could be a solution for them as well. So we are raising employment in general by creating virtual jobs. You're not just creating a job, but you're creating a very high impact job that actually in many economies can be worth several hundred or the value of several thousand jobs just with one job. The impact of the work that we're doing and the impact of the employment that we are providing is incredible, especially for professionals and personas that have traditionally have been limited by various criteria. All right, next is commuting. And yes, we all think about commuting. We all think about how wonderful it is to be able to sleep in and maybe go for a run instead of just hopping in the car and spending the next hour stuck in traffic, especially those of us that have lived in or commuted in urban areas. You know what a just mind-numbing process this is every single day. So it is a great benefit not to have to commute every single day to an office. However, like I said, we're thinking bigger. We're thinking outside of just ourselves. We're thinking broader about what does this impact mean at scale. And this means when we have hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of people off of the road all at the same time, how does that affect our environment? This is incredible. We've heard great stories in the media about people that have been able to see the mountain ranges that they live next to for the first time, and people that have said, "Oh, I have more financial security in my home because I was able to reduce my gasoline budget and my daily coffee budget." There's great individual benefits, but for all of us that are sharing our lives on this planet together, it means that there's less emissions and less energy usage in general. Corporations are responsible for over 70% of the carbon footprint of our world. And here we go. If we're taking as much business out of possible and spreading out that impact, then we are reducing the overall impact of large corporations, because residential energy usage is much, much smaller than each employee uses in an office. So we just have lighter footprints in general, but we're also relieving the transportation infrastructure as well. There's so many tax dollars that go into keeping up our roads, and a lot of more carbon emissions that come from the construction process as well. So we're leaving that process and overall minimizing physical waste. I love hearing that comment from people that have recently gone remote that are all saying, I have all of this furniture in my office, all of these file cabinets and all of these paper clips and all of these staplers and file folders and all of these things that I never realized I don't need those. And we say, well, yeah, in a virtual business world, yeah, they're pretty redundant. They're kind of superfluous. And so just physical waste in general is reduced. And what that means is that we have lighter footprints as individuals, but more specifically as entire companies and communities. We're keeping our planet healthier, which is, as we all know, no matter where we stand politically, this is important for ourselves and for our future generations. All right, next is work-life balance. And this is where we really get to identify, this is a wonderful opportunity for each of us, right? That we are not spending all of this time in the car, that we're not away from loved ones all day, every day. And that's nice and that's fun. It comes with its challenges, of course, but it is a benefit to be able to think about how our life dynamic is changing. However, on a much bigger scale, again, when millions of people around the world are all enjoying this lifestyle change all at the same time, what does that mean for our communities? What does that mean for us as a demographic of professionals throughout the world? Well, it means that we have lower stress and lower risk reduction. We're spending less time on the roads and we're spending less time in high pressure environments. And so our cardiovascular health and mental health can be much stronger. It also means that our emotional intelligence and relationships can be much higher because of the type of work that is required in virtual environments. Soft skills are actually more important than hard skills. And so we're going to be more aware and empathetic as human beings, and we're going to learn how to navigate socially better because we don't have that crutch that we can lean on to say, well, I'm here with you. I'm paying attention because I'm sitting next to you. So obviously we're connecting. We don't have proximity that can cover a myriad of sins, like actually not being emotionally and mentally present. We actually have to be emotionally and mentally present in a conversation virtually, or else we have no idea what's going on. And then also, as we mentioned before, household financial security. If one member of the home is able to get a higher paying job that's based on a national average, the financial security of the entire household will be healthier. We can also rely on talent platforms like Upwork and TopTel that will help us utilize our skill set and monetize our skill set in a part-time way. So that's another great option for contributing to financial success. So overall, just health and wellness as individuals and as households is better. We're living safer lives when we're working remotely. We're safer emotionally, socially, physically, and mentally all together. And that's incredible. All of these problems that we've worked so hard for so long to overcome and to figure out solutions for, it turns out that remote work is just one of those things. It can be a solution to so many problems. In fact, over 14 of the 17 United Nations sustainability initiatives can all be supported either indirectly or directly by remote work. This is not just about reducing the commute, folks. This is about changing the world. Now, before you get the impression that this is all sunshine and rainbows, let me be very clear that it's not. We have a long way to go. Yes, there are lots of people that are now working remotely, and it's going to be much more. However, if we really want to realize and see these benefits at scale throughout the world, then we've got to do a better job of making virtual jobs more accessible. That means we've got to accurately and sustainably convert companies from physical to virtual, because just working in a different location does not mean that you have optimized remote work operations. It means that you're allowing people to work in a different location, but you're not operating it as a virtual business. So accurate and sustainable change management is absolutely essential. Also, biased decision-making and policy approvals are locking opportunities in This is a rough statistic, but in about 6 of 10 companies that are hesitant about remote work, most of the time it's based on one single individual that just doesn't feel like remote work is an option for them. They don't have any data to support it. In fact, there may be data that contradicts it, but just based on their perception and their opinion, they're preventing a work from home option for their entire workforce. Now, I am not saying that every single company needs to convert to be remote, but I'm saying that we do need to be making decisions and approving policies that are data supported and not just based on opinions, because a subject opinion or a subject solution that is approved by an individual based on an opinion, it's discrimination. So we want to make sure that that's happening in the right way. And then finally, there is a massive, dangerous disconnection between the private sector and the public sector because of how work from home boomed. And we are now in this period of massive hypergrowth. There will be so many employment laws and regional corporate laws that will be designed about compliance and communication and discrimination that will all be designed by the government. But too often the industries and the government are not communicating about what is best for the workforce and for the community as a whole. So it's absolutely essential, if we want this to be sustainable in the future, that we need to combine those two and make sure that the private sector and public sectors are working together to create the new normal and the future laws. So in all of this, what is your role? Well, obviously your role needs to be enjoying the remote revolution, right? Take full advantage. See this as an opportunity. So many people are limiting themselves and saying, oh, like I have to work from home and I just want to go back to the office and blah, blah, blah. Like they feel so constricted because this was imposed upon them. Now I get that. I am not somebody that likes to be told what to do either. However, the first thing that you can do for yourself is to unlock your brain out of that limited mindset and that scarcity mindset and see this as an incredible opportunity. This is an opportunity for you to do whatever you want with your life. You now have time to start that new hobby. You have time to work on those relationships. You have time and the control to create the workspace that you want to work in. Were you always complaining that the office was too cold or too hot? Guess what? You get to set your own stupid temperature. So see it as an opportunity that you are in control and of your career, of your work environment, of your workflows. This is the era of self-management. And so step into that role with leadership and pride and excitement. Now, beyond that, take ownership of it. So if something's not working for you in terms of remote work, it's up to you in order to find the solution. You're not in a work environment that you're surrounded by a bunch of people anymore. It's up to you to think critically and to propose a solution. So if something's not working, don't just sit there and complain about it. You are an autonomous self-manager now. You need to take ownership of it and say, what do I need to do in order to solve this problem? How am I going to solve this problem for myself and for my coworkers? So take ownership of your success. Be a true self-manager. Next, confirm employer compliance. If your workforce and your employer has not yet created a remote work policy and encouraged you to sign a remote work policy, you are in a dangerous situation. There is essentially you're working illegally. So you need to make sure that you and your employer have a remote work policy set. If you'd like a free template, you're welcome to go to distributeconsulting.com. We have a checklist and a template there on our website that's free for anybody to use because we feel that it is so important that everybody have a remote work policy for the protection of your job, the protection of your health, the protection of just workflows and business continuity. A policy can help really prevent so many concerns and barriers to success. Next is to build community awareness. Remote work is a very common conversation in tech. I mean, obviously, here we are at this GitLab conference, right? But there's a lot of people that don't have access to this information because they're not from tech. There's a lot of other industries or small businesses or teachers or household members or whatever. There's a lot of people that aren't familiar with best practices, that this new work from home model is very foreign and very overwhelming. So spread the wealth. Talk to other people about what you do in your work life that contributes to your success, and help them understand best practices as well. That will make sure that the entire world has equal access to best practices at the same time. And then finally, share the privilege, because like it or not, remote work is a privilege. It has been a privilege historically over the past 50 years because the technology was very expensive for teleworking and telecommuting. And so it required a significant investment in an expensive and cumbersome internet connection and expensive equipment. And now we have more accessibility because that technology is more affordable and internet connections are more mobile. However, it's going to be a privilege if only the best companies and the most innovative industries are having access to best practices. It's going to become more and more and more of a privilege, even more than it was before. So we need to make sure that we share the privilege, encourage as many industries as you can to consider remote work as an option, not just for the benefit of their workforces, but for the benefit of their industry. And as we've been discussing today, the benefit of their entire community. They could be a critical piece to the success of the socioeconomic health of their community in such a fragile time economically and in terms of health and wellness as well. All right, that's a lot of information, so I'll close here with just a reminder that remote work isn't about convenience. As you are sharing the privilege, as you are creating awareness, as you are taking ownership of your role, don't be just focused on yourself. It's not just about the ability that you have to sleep in a little bit longer. It's about changing the world. It's about creating opportunities for people that have traditionally been cut off from opportunities or have been limited in their potential. This is what remote work does. It doesn't just diversify workers. It diversifies opportunity. It diversifies accessibility. It diversifies change to our world and distributes those throughout the world just as much as our workforces. So if you have any questions about obviously optimization of workforces, but also just how your organization or your role can have a bigger impact on your local community or on our international community, I hope that you'll get in touch with me. You can find me on social media, on Twitter or LinkedIn, and you can also contact me directly at Distribute Consulting or the Remote Work Association. Thanks so much.